Dan Ives is head of tech research for Wedbush with me here once again on set. It's nice to see you. How do you know that?
Because all we're doing during the week, on the weekends, is talking to buyers of the software, private companies, understanding what's happening within these sales cycles. Because that's why, like, when I'm talking about software being disintermediated, to me is I think it's the most disconnected trade that I've ever seen in my career on Wall Street. It's because when I'm talking to the actual buyers of the software, they're saying there's no way. It would take years for any of these tools to actually come in just on a bake-off. I'm not saying on the edges it's not a headwind, but Scott, my whole view is that software is actually going to be 2-3x larger over the next 4 or 5 years than it is today because of AI.
But it's not taking years. It feels like it's taking days for things like, Claude at work to have a dramatic impact on a number of sectors. Microsoft can't get out of its own way. That stock's in a bear market. There's no threat to Office, for example. We don't have to wait years for that. These tools are already being disruptive.
Well, part of it is like if I think about what's happening within enterprises, they are so entrenched within Microsoft, within Oracle, within Salesforce.com, hundreds of thousands of customers. The data that's actually entrenched, you can't just come in as a connector, an API, and that's going to unseat these companies. And look, to me, I view it from decades covering tech. Am I missing something? When I talk to the buyers of the software, whether it's CTOs, CSOs, IT managers, Scott, I think we are going to look back 6, 9, 12 months now, and this is going to be, when I say generate, I view it's a historical buying opportunity on names like Salesforce.
Okay, I want to get that. Now, you went to Salesforce, so you have an outperform on it, 375. Let's take a look at that. What is the multiple on that now? What's the historical? Why does it deserve to trade at a historical multiple, which has always been high? Mm-hmm. Why?
Well, okay, first off, when I look at Salesforce, the monetization of AI today is basically zero. So you're betting that when you look at numbers for Salesforce, call it 8 to 10% grower. I actually think that accelerates where you're going to get ultimately teen type growth, free cash flow that we'll talk, what I believe is free cash flow growth that could be mid-teens to high teens. When I look at the multiple that Salesforce is growing at today, you're basically factoring in this is a company that's actually going to decline the next few years, not grow. And I think everything we're seeing, now look, did Benioff miscalculate AI? Have they definitely been caught off guard? Yes. Is it a headwind? But when you look at Agentforce and how they're positioned, I believe over the coming years, Salesforce as well as ServiceNow will be core players in the use cases of the AI revolution, just like Palantir has obviously been front and center. And
they're different companies, though. I mean, if you suggest that the CEO miscalculated and missed a lot of where, well, at first, but I mean, you don't seem to be punishing, my words, you don't seem to be punishing the stock in any way for that. You just look at the decline and suggest it's a buy without taking any hit to your outlook or the stock price that you have as a result of what you just told me.
And I think to that point, like over the last year, we've been critical of Benioff in terms of thinking that they did miscalculate. We've been consistently bullish on Salesforce, but I think now the reason it's different is that we are getting closer and closer to the use case phase. And I think the monetization, whether it's Microsoft, whether it's Salesforce, I think whether it's cybersecurity in terms of them playing a huge role, we are now getting into the monetization phase. And I think at the end of the day, AI is not going to reach the heights without software.
Certain software. We'll see. Dan, thanks. Appreciate it.
Great.
Carl and Court were just telling you, we've had a nice little turnaround here. You can thank Goldman Sachs, which was down pretty heavily earlier. It's come back. JP Morgan, same story. Microsoft, Meta, Amazon, same story. That shows the Goldman move. We're going to get to all of that. The CPI, as you know, was cooler, but the biggest story out there remains how AI is just rippling through this market, sector by sector, day by day. We have a good wall to show you that sort of takes you through that in what Barclays determines to be a sell first, ask later market. No mercy for almost anything. There it is. Software, you know about that. Well, gaming, okay. Legal tech, insurance brokers, wealth managers, property managers, and freight off of that transports takedown yesterday, which was downright ugly. Weiss, take the first shot at this market, which, you know, maybe some people have looked at some of these areas that wall shows you, have gotten banged up and said, this is like, okay, a little crazy, a little ridiculous. Shoot first, ask later, but maybe you need to think about this before you.
Yeah, I don't even, they used to say don't see the whites of their eyes. Well, they're not even waiting to see the whites of their eyes. So they're shooting in advance of shooting first. So look, to me, I made this observation last week that when markets go down, people say, wow, that's really healthy. But when they rise up with the same force and same vigor, like NASDAQ up 400 and the Dow up 1,000, nobody blinks an eye and says, this is great, let me add to it. Well, to me, that's the inverse. That's troubling, and that's what we've seen, we'll continue to see. Now, what happens in that, when you see these go down, I do think you have to buy. However, I will tell you that I'm looking to sell some things. I won't sell them down here. And the only ones I'm really looking to buy are the ones where I can really justify the valuation, and I don't need to deal with, is AI going to put them out of business or significantly damage their business?
And guys, I'll get you in a minute, but let's just get right to it, because I really think that's the differentiator for some of the people who are up here from all of the decline and the doom and gloom and all of that. Bring in Josh Brown, because I want to start with commercial real estate. CBRE had one of its biggest drops since COVID. SL Green, Cushman Wakefield, Jones Lang LaSalle, Hudson Pacific, all huge declines. Brokers and AI fears are overplayed, says Morgan Stanley. And I bring in Josh, who's on the phone for us today, because he obviously agrees. So you bought CBRE. That is one of our big headlines today. Tell us more.
Yeah, so this was a name that went from being one of the best stocks in the market for almost a full year to all of a sudden getting rated by algorithms that decided, okay, today's the day we're going to spook everybody about real estate and see how many people we can get to sell. And it worked. These stocks have just been absolutely crowbarred. But if you know literally anything about commercial real estate, you understand that nothing that's playing on your screen is based on reality. My commercial real estate broker is Barry Finkelman. He is simultaneously negotiating deals for my firm in Boca Raton and Charlotte right now. We'll be doing a New York City headquarters in 2028. I guarantee you, watching him wheeling and dealing in action with the landlords, the building owners, the vendors, the trades, literally none of this is disruptible. So much of this is based on how people speak, how they communicate. The math is the math. We are all going to use AI to have more information, to have efficient communication, and to make calculations very rapidly that we couldn't even imagine just a year ago.